All right, go ahead and give me your first and last name.
Sure, Jimmy Patronis, Jimmy, Patronis, State of Florida, Chief Financial Officer, State Fire Marshal.
Thank you so much for coming and joining us, talking all things insurance.
Sure.
Obviously, this is something a lot of our viewers are concerned about.
Absolutely.
Before we get started, though, I got to ask the question that everyone's thinking about.
Okay.
Are you going to run for governor? It looks like you might be running for governor.
I think you're talking to my mother too much. Look, my mom and my wife are pushing my buttons every day, hoping that I say yes. But look, I've got the best job in the state right now. I really enjoy what we're doing. You know, I'm going to admit to you in a few minutes that insurance rates are going down. It's fun giving people good news. So yeah, if it's God's plans to be running for governor, yeah, of course we're going to do it.
Do we have any time frame on?
Oh no! Look, I think there's so many moving parts. I tell people all the time, look, there's got to be a vacancy first. So we've got Governor Ron DeSantis doing an incredible job, and I'm proud to serve with him, and look forward to an opportunity to continue making the state, the best place to live and raise a family.
Well, if being in charge of insurance, a lot of people have their eyes on you right now. So of course, I'm sure you're going to tout as much good news as possible, but as the consumers have been telling us, it doesn't look like their rates are going down.
That's
so
right.
The way that we're going to do this interview is we're going to let our viewers kind of lead the way.
Okay.
A lot of the questions that they have, we have as well on their behalf. So I figured
Sure.
we're going to start. I have a little video for you guys, just of a snapshot of the people we've talked to so far. And it's probably stories that you've also heard. Teachers, seniors on fixed incomes, folks who live in mobile homes. I mean, they're really struggling. So we're going to start with that.
Sure.
These are directly our viewers that we've talked to.
So just in 5 years, my insurance has gone up from $2,460 to my most recent of $4,550. So that's almost, not quite double, but close enough. So I don't know how to stop them or to get the point across that it's really hurting seniors, scaring us, really.
I even went, and I'm a retired RN. I went and got my license out of retirement just on the off chance that we're on a fixed income. Could we afford to keep this place? I think that when we came down here, I just had rose-colored glasses on. I felt like Florida was such a paradise, and sometimes with the rising cost and everything, I feel like it's paradise lost now.
My question would be why are they raising the rates as high as 54%? I am not happy with that, because that means I'm going to have to find some way to pay for it, and we're on a fixed income. We're retired. We of course moved down to Florida like everyone else to retire, and hopefully have our costs stay low.
First of all, our homeowners insurance coverage has been going up 25%, 30%, 50% over the last several years. And then when I got this notice, I wasn't sure I'd be able to find coverage at all. I just say it's very frustrating, and I talk to my wife frequently about the idea of there may come a time where, as much as we love Florida, we've been here 11 years, but we may not be able to afford to stay here.
Bottom line is I'm paying all this money, I can't afford it, so I want to pay less money.
I'm at my max right now, at affording it. So if our risks continue to go up, we'll just have no insurance.
What would you say to our state leaders?
Ask for help. If they need to ask for help from the president, whomever, if there's any money out there. What terrifies me the most is we send all this money for foreign aid, and we send all this money to help others. What about us?
100%. 100%.
We need so much help here.
Why are you getting emotional? What are you feeling?
It's just scary.
It's a lot. It's
scary to think that you're one storm away from homeless.
I feel like it keeps the pressure on Tallahassee to actually do something, and to actually that people have a voice. That we have a voice that actually can be heard. They may not hear it. We can send letters and things to our representatives, but unless your news crews keep the pressure on, I don't feel like they actually see it. They may know it, but they're not doing what they need to do about it.
Yeah, so that's where we come in today,
Sure.
you know, they want to be heard. They want their voice to be listened to. And you heard a lot of stories there, a lot of frustration, and these are seniors again. These are teachers. These are folks who are going without coverage on their mobile home because they can't afford it anymore.
Sure. Nadeen, whenever I talk to a group of people, the first thing I ask the whole audience, I ask everybody in the room, who in this room has your insurance gone up at least in the last 2 years by at least 50%? And I look for raised hands. And I make sure they see, I tell them afterwards, my hand's up too, okay? The problems that we've been faced in Florida is not unique to just the citizens, it's everywhere in the whole entire country. What Florida is doing that other states are slower to react to is, look, we had a special session, and I just call it for all purposes, January of 2023. We had a special session to fix the man-made problems we had in the state. I can't control global warming, but the insurance companies, they can model rates and risk based on storm activity, okay? I can't control inflation. I can't control interest rates. Just exactly what that woman said. You know, we're sending money to go fight wars that don't help people right here in our own entire country. So, but what we've done in the state of Florida, and I don't want to get too long-winded because you got other questions to ask me, but you know, this will be now, as of this session, this will be $600 million in cash that we have pushed out through the My Safe Florida Home program. The average participant in that program has gotten a rate reduction of $1,000 in premium a year, but you got to participate in the program. You know, you can't just magic wand and get the savings. You go to mysafeflhome.com. Now, the money's been used. The legislature appropriated another $200 million this last session. I'm asking the legislature for making this recurring. I think this is not a problem that's going to leave us overnight. But whether you believe in global warming or not, we're in a storm-prone part of the world. It's not going to be the last time a storm has hit us to the likes of Idalia. Okay, Idalia was the most expensive storm in the history of the state. 753,000 insurance claims. There'll be over $20 billion. And you know Southwest Florida as well as anybody, there's over $20 billion of insurance claims being paid in that market still as we speak. The recovery is not overnight. And the rates that we deal with are based on the history of damage and losses that carriers have. So you can't tell an insurance company, you must lower your rates. But you know what we'll do is we'll make sure they only can raise them enough to be able to survive. So this is what we do. But I can't control inflation. I can't control interest rates. Right now, if you decided to rebuild this building we're in right now, there's no way you could rebuild it for the cost that you bought it for, even if you bought it 2 years ago, because everything costs more. And this is why I get so frustrated in Washington, because they don't do anything about inflation or interest rates. And those are the two biggest cost drivers to the premiums every single person's facing right now.
So you're not surprised in hearing these stories?
No, and this is why the My Safe Florida Home program, and for your viewers that aren't familiar with it, you bought a house, say you bought it, built in 1990, okay? So a house built in 1990, there are stiffer and stronger building codes now, okay? The tougher that house is, the more resilient it is, the less of a risk it is for the insurance carrier. So if you've built a house and you got storm impact windows, you've got hurricane clips on the roof, that means if a storm blows and it's got those newest innovations embedded in the house, it's less likely you're going to file a claim. So the carrier says, gosh, that place is built to the latest codes. You know what? It's a competitive account to go after. I've got to be aggressive with my rate because I'm probably never have to pay a claim there because it's so resilient. Okay? And this is what the My Safe Florida Home program does. We're providing up to $10,000 per homeowner to replace their windows and doors with impact windows and doors, to replace their roofs, to help them offset the expense. Hurricane Ian generated about $1.4 billion in non-expected, non-typical revenue for the state. If you're going to pay out $20 billion in claims, there's a lot of sales tax that goes with TVs, wardrobes, cars, shingles. So, I mean, I've always advocated for, we're morally obligated as a state. We made money as a state off of somebody else's pain and suffering. We are obligated as decision makers in Tallahassee to give all that money back to the citizens of the state of Florida, to give them relief based on Mother Nature, plain and simple.
And how are we going to do that?
So again, right now, we've done it a couple different ways. One, $600 million in the My Safe Florida Home program. That is taking taxpayers' money and making it available to the homeowner. And I can get you all the latest stats of how many people have participated in the program. And then we've done a sales tax exemption on windows and doors. So if you go buy impact windows and doors, we're giving you incentive. Windows and doors aren't necessarily cheap, but we're trying to create an incentive where if you can make that home tougher, then your rates go down. So I'm gonna use myself as an example. My rates doubled in a 2-year window. I went from $4,500, I got a 2,200 square foot house, built in 1990, but I did not have impact windows and doors, okay? Had a new roof. My insurance went from $4,500 to $9,500 in just under 2 years, okay? In May of 2023, I ordered new windows and doors. By the end of the summer, I had the windows installed, had to wait a little bit on the doors. November rolls around, my insurance hits $9,500. I finally get my doors installed. So I got all new windows, all new doors. I get my house inspected by windstorm mitigation inspection. That was on December the 28th. I submit that report, and I did it just like every citizen state where I asked for no special favor. I submitted my windstorm mitigation inspection to my insurance carrier. January 2nd, I got a check back from my carrier for $4,500. And that's my new premium moving forward. And now I've got a tougher home because of it, because my carrier says, you know what, Jimmy's house is not as vulnerable as it once was. So this is exactly what the My Safe Florida Home program does. It gives you your money back in order to harden your home. And then you get those savings moving forward.
Well, we got some questions about the My Safe Florida Home program, so I'm just going to go straight with that.
Let's do it.
Perfect. Happy I highlighted. I used the My Safe Florida Home program to upgrade my windows and hurricane impact, and it was approved for the $10,000. And was under the impression that it was also meant to discount my insurance. However, when I reported this to my insurance company to get a new quote with the window upgrade, they advised me that there's no discount because I didn't upgrade my doors as well. So this home hardening program seems to have loopholes to keep the insurance companies from giving discounts.
So that particular policyholder got a report in the mail, and it will show exactly what discounts they were eligible for. In my particular case, I was not eligible for 100% of the maximum discounts I could get. But unless you take care of the whole bubble, windows and doors, you've got a vulnerability spot. If you didn't do the door, that's a vulnerable spot. Okay? So, again, you're going to have to put a little more money out of pocket.
I was going to say, people don't have that money to do it
exactly.
all.
So in some cases, it's going to be a business decision for that household. But the state of Florida, pushing out $600 million, pushing out over $400 million in sales tax incentive, we are doing everything the state of Florida can to help give you your money back to lower your rates. Use myself as an example. I dropped my rates 50%. Okay? In the case of that particular homeowner, you know what? You probably have your heart set on one particular door that's probably a really attractive door. You know what? If you want to maximize the saving, go ahead and get a door that's and impact doors. They come in all shapes and sizes and also different prices.
Yeah.
They need they really.
A lot of people can't afford
well,
all of that.
and in their case, they may have to look at taking a home equity loan, because if they've got their home, if they got some equity in it, they want to maybe look at a home equity loan. At least they can write off their interest that they get with it. So that's one of the solutions. But again, whoever it was, they got $10,000 from the state that offset a pretty significant investment they made in their house that they get forever. If they want the maximum discount, they unfortunately have to cover that last piece of vulnerable part of the building.
Now we know that the money quickly ran out this first
Correct.
time, and the governor today just signed the bill for My Safe Florida.
Correct.
Actually came down today. Is it going to be enough?
No, it's not. And this is why we are constantly advocating for more money. Every year that I've been on the job, I've always advocated to do things to lower insurance rates. People get, if I don't know if you remember, my wife Katie, she's a realtor. So I hear about the dream of home ownership every single day of the week. And there's so many good things that happen in life if you own a home. And when you own a home, you show up to work. You take care of your yard. You get to know your neighbors. You become part of the community. When insurance rates go up, you can't own a home. Okay? So, my attitude has always been, the lower we keep insurance, the more likely you create stability in your community. You got a homeowner, but when you got insurance rates going up, it makes it harder to achieve that dream.
So to know that really the biggest thing that you feel like you can do right now is the My Safe Florida Home Program and the sales tax incentives, but there's not enough money, and then people might not have the money to even do everything to bring down the rates. It feels like there's really not any other answer than that.
Well, again, you've seen zero. The solutions out of the federal government is let's give everybody $7,500, incentives to get $7,500 off their income tax to buy an EV. That doesn't do anything for insurance rates. So the decisions that we've seen out of Washington, look, I love renewable energies. That's all fine and well, great, but that does not help people's grocery bill. And so this is my frustration. As long as you keep on increasing insurance rates, here's a little snapshot that people don't understand when it comes to the rate setting of an insurance company. State of Florida tells an insurance company, you can make about 5% profit a year. That's what we tell them, okay? Well, now, go talk to your local credit union or bank. If you go get a CD, you can probably get 5% CDs all day long. So now I'm an investor that wants to look at maybe investing in the Florida market. Do I want to take a chance and put it at risk in a Florida insurance company? Or do I want to go put it in a bank where I know I'll get my 5% back and no worries about a hurricane? So now when Washington continues to raise interest rates, when Washington continues to raise interest rates, then the insurance companies are chasing money. They're chasing money to buy exposure. When they have to buy money to write exposure, that cost of business gets passed straight to the consumer. That is a problem in Washington, period. And when they make policies that don't think about Main Street, again, those become cost drivers right back to the consumer.
Let's go back to some questions. Let's
Sure.
see here. These are some questions directly to state leaders that were brought in. Home insurance has become unaffordable for many Floridians. What are you doing to address this issue? And I think you've already answered that. Another one says, I'm interested to know how many of these state representatives have financial ties to the insurance industry. And could it be that they might not have homeowners' interests in mind?
I don't believe it. Look, the Florida legislature, the one thing I'll tell you about the men and women of the Florida legislature, Democrat, Republican, no matter what party politics, they like making their constituents happy. They truly do. There's not a single member of the legislature that does not get at least 1 or 2 or 5 phone calls a week about their insurance rates. This is why the My Safe Florida Home program sailed through the process. But at the same time, if we're putting money into a program to help lower people's insurance rates, it's competing against hospitals that want money. It's competing against roads that want that money. It's competing against K-12 that wants that money. So when you're taking and you're fighting, you got to make sure your legislators understand that. If you like the My Safe Florida Home program and you want it funded again, you got to tell them. This is exactly why we're asking for it reoccurring. We're asking for another special session to deal with this. And the legislature, they get it. They like telling people, hey, they get calls about it, okay? And that effectively helps us get more relief. And right now, let me tell you, as the Chief Financial Officer of the state of Florida, we're in the best fiscal health we've ever been in the history of the state. We have got money that we can continue to pledge to this program.
My mortgage payment is no longer affordable. I'm a teacher. My modest salary isn't enough to cover my mortgage, to buy food, car, electricity. I'm a divorced mom of 3, 2 are in college. There's a good chance I'll either have to leave the state or change careers. If not, I'm in danger of losing my home. And then another one, take the lobbyists out of the government and give the vote back to the public. As for the speaker's comments about insurance, not in my Navy would you want a ship to be that slow. That only occurs when you let the current drive your ship.
Sure. So this is why, like I said, we've had multiple special sessions to deal specifically with insurance. We had 2 special sessions on insurance in 2022 alone. So again, we hear it. You know, look, you don't have to ask me twice. I'm ready to go back and start. You want to have a special session tonight, I'll start tonight. But at the end of the day, the state has money available. But again, people have to engage it. But right now, we've got a waiting list of people that want to participate with the program. And, I told the legislature, I said, look, $10,000 is great. But unless you're going to give it more money, then cut it down to 5 and give people 5 later. Let's get rid of the wait list. Let's get everybody something in hand to allow them to go ahead and start making those improvements. So
yeah, because there's a long wait list. The process takes forever.
And it doesn't have, in my case, it took 10 months for me to get my relief. Now, hey, the great thing about it is if you make those improvements, Florida law makes it by law the carrier has to give you a discount. So look, you can do this right now. I did it right now without participating in the My Safe Florida Home program. Okay, so anybody can do exactly what the My Safe Florida Home program, if they want to right now, and get that savings. They just won't be eligible for the $10,000. If they want to wait for that $10,000 assistance, they're going to have some patience. And again, tomorrow we're going to have a town hall with insurance in St. Pete, and in the legislators there, they're all enthusiastic supporters of this program. You know, so I mean, you know, a few more $100 million in this program would go a long way for the citizens of the state of Florida.
It's hard. I would imagine for the viewers, it would be a hard pill to swallow that really the only thing that they can do right now is harden their homes when roofs cost how many thousands of dollars now? I mean, it's a lot of money. So I think that's difficult, even though I know this is really the only thing the state can do.
Sure. So I talked to one carrier this week. I've put calls into 2 other carriers this week. The one I talked to this week, they're going in for their rate filing. I've not told anybody this yet, but I'm telling you, this carrier is actually going to file with a rate to lower their property insurance rates. So the changes that we've made, the lack of storm, last year you basically had Hurricane Idalia. That was the biggest storm that hit the state. When you have a year without a significant storm, then the carriers have to lower rates. They don't have losses. If they don't have losses, they can't charge the rates that they were the year after Hurricane Ian, where there was over $20 billion in losses, 753,000 claims. You know, but it affects car insurance, it affects homeowners insurance. Car insurance right now is an all-time high. And I tell people, look, if you were driving a 2016 Tahoe, you probably had normal rearview mirrors on it. But now, say you drive a 2021 Tahoe, you've probably got cameras in it, you've got LEDs, you got sensors built into those rearview mirrors. Now that mirror went from $130 to $2,100. So the cost of the technology that's going in our cars right now is almost got to the point where you get an accident, you're probably going to get your car totaled as opposed to getting fixed. That becomes a massive pass-through to the customer. So, I mean, it's just, there's certain things that we can control. We can control fraud. We step up our game with fraud. We got more people. We put millions of dollars back into consumer services. People need to have their hands held when it comes to the claims process. But, you know, the My Safe Florida Home program is the best that drives down the cost of premiums. And at the same time, it's a good way that we have a checks and balances with the insurance companies.
We were talking about how we're starting to see this rate come down. A couple of other companies have filed for rate decreases. Talk about the timeline, because I think that's what that one viewer was talking about. Not in my Navy would I have a ship going that slow.
Sure.
Talk about the timeline here and where are we at in that process?
Sure. So what happens is right now, this time of year, this is when the insurance companies in the state of Florida are buying and bidding on reinsurance. So as they are finding their reinsurance rates, they've got to build a tower of reinsurance to back them up in case they have a massive loss. So they're securing those contracts. Once they secure those contracts, the state of Florida is constantly monitoring what their cost of business is, what their losses are, you know, what their book of business looks like, the diversity of their portfolio, and then they come in and they ask for a rate. Then we start doing our own auditing and making sure that the rate that they're asking for is justified. That's all really starting to take place as we speak. So I have always said, and you can go look for the last 14 months, I've told everybody, you will get a relief in rates 12 to 18 months. We're at month 14 from the day I said that. And rates are at least being announced that they're going in for filings to lower them.
I was going to say, because some renewals right now, they're still seeing the increases
Correct.
on the renewals
But,
in 2024.
but we're seeing the trend turning. And that's what we had to, and unfortunately when it comes to setting insurance rates, if I'm ABC Insurance Company and I'm coming to the state and I need to understand how much rate I can get, how much money did you lose last year? Well, I had Hurricane Ian last year and you know I lost $40 million. And so then the state says, okay, you've got to be prepared to lose that again. That then goes into a rate that's a higher premium because of it. Now, if I collected premium for that potential loss the next year and I didn't have any losses, then the rates have to go down. They have to go down. We will not allow them to have higher rates if they have no losses on the books. So this isn't the first rodeo the state of Florida is having the insurance crisis. You can go back to 2007. That's the inception when My Safe Florida Home was established in the first place. We were trying to create solutions to solve the insurance crisis because we had the housing bubble. You know, and then what happened was the foreclosure crisis. So I mean, it is what it is. Citizens Insurance, okay, in 2017 had 440,000 policies in it. Now Citizens has, in 2017, now it has 1.4 million. Okay, so the state's liability has grown. But, last year we had 400,000 new net Floridians to the state of Florida. So you are creating more demands on the system. We've got to we've got to be able to manage what we've got, and we've picked up 8 new carriers in the state of Florida. They're fleeing Texas, they're fleeing Louisiana, they're fleeing California. So again, I keep on telling everybody, you got to give us 12 to 18 months. We've picked up new carriers. We're creating our own solutions to the My Safe Florida Home program. We've closed the man-made loopholes that were creating a litigation problem in the state of Florida, and now we're starting to see rates start to change direction and start to go lower. I wish I could make it go faster. I wish I could.
Well, I was saying when it comes to generating excitement for the My Safe Florida Home program, that first round was kind of a mess. It took a long time. The wait list was jammed. People didn't know where they were in the process. So from what I've heard from our viewers, it's like they just don't really have faith in that program.
Sure.
Because of how the initial rollout.
Well, and again, the program initially, we had a pretty substantial advertising budget to try to explain it to people. And then afterwards, once we ran out of slots, I told our people, I said, stop advertising. I said, I went to the legislature, got the legislature, I said, give me my marketing dollars. I'm sorry, ABC, you may not like this. Give me my marketing dollars and let me push it into program grants. Because there's no sense advertising something that you don't have any more slots for. So let me at least take my marketing dollars and put it actually into relief for the policyholder. And that's exactly what we've done.
So is it going to be smoother this next round, you hope?
Oh, it's a lot smoother. Again, let me just point something out. If you ask my mom to operate that computer, I'm sorry, she probably couldn't figure out how to navigate that computer. Everything that we do with the My Safe Florida Home, it's all going through a laptop or a computer or a smart device. So it's not a perfect fit for everybody. If you're a senior and you're trying to navigate the My Safe Florida Home program, we're going to probably have to hold your hand a little bit more, which again, we have stood up a program to try to solve a problem.
Yeah, we have.
And it's not a problem for one community. It's for 23 million Floridians.
And we had a senior email us talking about how confusing the website was. Okay, we'll start here too. I'm so proud of our viewers because they're the ones who really have been driving, the questions.
Your viewers, my constituents, the same thing.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely. All right, we're going to go one by one on these. Again, these are some of the same people that you heard their stories.
Okay.
This is Dira on a fixed income. She picked up a second.
Yeah, we've got a solution regarding that too. We can speak to this session.
She has a second job now, working macrame and farmers markets just to afford her a mortgage and subsequent insurance.
I understand that we're in Florida and there's a lot of loss possibly, but man, there has to be some sort of a cap.
Can we have insurance caps?
You cannot have insurance caps. If you put insurance caps, then companies there'll be limited amount of coverage you can get. I wish I could snap fingers and say we have caps, but if you don't allow an insurance company to write anymore, then you're really going to have problems, because then there will be no insurance available. Okay, so you've got to allow. Now there's a cap how much profit they can make. We say insurance companies, you can make 5%. Okay, that's the cap.
Yeah,
that's cap. But no one remind people that gallon of milk costs twice as much as it did 3 years ago. That carton of eggs costs twice as much as it did 3 years ago. All the gas you put in your tank, it costs twice as much as it did 3 years ago. So you factor all those same costs. That's the same thing for lumber. That's for paint. That's for shingles. That's for concrete. That's for carpet. So you can't build something on 2017 prices anymore. Everything costs more, including the cost of construction. That's another reason why your premiums cost so much more.
Well, this viewer feels like it's quite literally price gouging. Why are insurance companies allowed to price gouge?
I get that.
You're saying it's not price gouging?
It's inflation that Washington does zero about. I hope you'll say that part, because Washington hasn't done squat about the inflation crisis and the cost of everything from gas to milk. When you think about the truck that is going to go, the pickup truck that is going to leave at 5 a.m. over in Plant City, because probably that's the only place maybe they can find affordable housing, to go work a job site in downtown Tampa, and that pickup truck has got to fill up his gas. 4 years ago, that gas was $2 a gallon. Now they're paying almost $4 a gallon. That becomes a direct cost for every piece of lumber, every wire, every bolt, every nut that is going into that new home. that increases the cost per square foot over double. That becomes a replacement cost that shows up in your premium every single day.
I just don't feel like there's an end in sight. I look at all the legislature stuff going through, and I feel like it's just all talk at this point. Because some of those carriers, I watched your segment on the carriers, and I went up and looked and researched some of them, and there's maybe out of all those carriers, there's one carrier that's actually writing policies in Florida, and I don't even think they're writing condo policies. I'm not positive.
So this is talking about the new companies that have come in. She looked into it. We've been touting these 8 new companies. She's saying none of them are even writing policies at this point.
So they're brand new companies that are taking liability off the shelf from Citizens. Okay, so they're bringing down Citizens' liability. That's the insurance company we all own as a state together. So here's other things that people don't think about when it comes to condominiums. We had a collapse just a few years ago with Surfside. I spent 30 days down there, and the exposure that building had in showing the ugly underside of the lack of proper maintenance and upkeep to a condominium became just a threat to insurance of high rises all over our state. We're a state covered in high rises. You know what? Nobody likes their assessments raised. Nobody wants to pay a higher HOA due. But you know, you've got to take care of that building. If you're not taking care of the concrete, the spalding, making sure the rebar is not rusting, and all that becomes a direct cost when it comes to insurance. In the case of Surfside, that when that building collapsed, every single insurance company that had a policy on it, whether they were fire, whether they were flood, that was a collapse. That wasn't fire. That wasn't flood. Every single carrier paid policy limits. They did it because, you know what? Let me just write the check. This is such a horrific event. Here it is. Now, the insurance market has got to size up. How many more Surfsides exist in the state of Florida? That's another reason why condo insurance. Condo prices are going, and condo prices will start to reflect. Realtors aren't going to like me saying this, but you might see a reflection in a hotness in the condo market because insurance on a condo is a moving target.
Well, I mean, in Pinellas right now, they have tons of condos up for sale because no one's selling and no one's buying. There was one person, their home was on the market for 158 days. No one was buying their condo.
So two things that the legislature did with the My Safe Florida Home program, we also put $30 million aside to work on condos. It's kind of a pilot program. I don't know what $30 million will do, but it is a way to at least test the waters. Again, this is $30 million that could go to homeowners. Now there's $30 million that's going to go to condominiums, okay? So, you know, I was very sensitive. I said, look, condominiums, some of which are primary homeowners, some of which are vacation rentals. I said, I don't want state dollars going to a bunch of vacation rentals. I want state dollars going to homesteaded properties in the state of Florida. Now, if you got a condominium, it's all homesteaded, fine, write the check, okay? But at the end of the day, I care about the resident who is living here, that is working in the Florida job market, who is paying property taxes, not the guy who lives in Atlanta, Georgia, who has a vacation rental down here that he has as a supplemental income.
Yeah, those secondary homes are.
The other thing that we did with My Safe Florida Homes is there's an email that's going out this week or next week, and it's going to be a survey of everybody that's on the wait list, and we're going to ask them their income and their age, okay? And if you hit the income status point, if you hit the age status point, you're going to be prioritized, okay? And these are lists that could be audited, so don't go be putting funny numbers in there because then we will come snatch the money from you. Play the game right, and we will take care of you. But we are prioritizing fixed income, like your woman you just have there, she will be eligible for this and get front of the line treatment. If you're elderly, you'll get front of the line treatment. So we're going to try to target low income and seniors. That's legislatively what we got to do first.
So why did you reach out to us?
Well, because it's frustrating. I keep hearing the state is doing things to help homeowners, and they have gotten some new carriers in the state. But again, they're no-name carriers, companies that you've never heard of. They've been around between 2 and 7 years. In some cases, they seem to be offshoots of bankrupt carriers or carriers who've left the state.
So his fears or how legitimate are these new companies, and
State
will
of
they?
Florida wouldn't allow a bankrupt carrier. He's gotten some bad information, okay? And look, it's easy to be sitting at the coffee shop and getting some bad information. But the state of Florida, right now, the way the laws are written, if you have bankrupted a carrier, you cannot be a part of a carrier. That's the law, okay? If you're an exec from a bad carrier, you can't be a part of a new carrier. So again, I think there's just some misunderstandings.
Understood, but I do think the common theme, what he was trying to say too, and this story was about, he wanted his own centralized way to research his companies. The information that OIR has about do they pay out claims, the percentage of claims.
Sure.
We had talked to your office, and apparently it's trade secret. They don't let people know about that.
Yes.
He is wondering how legitimate are these new companies, or can any of these companies pay out an actual claim if a storm hits?
Well, again, after we had the special sessions on insurance, we came back and had a consumer special session. We put a lot of teeth at the Office of Insurance Regulation, where the fines and penalties of a carrier that is mishandling policies and claims, we can go after them to the tunes of millions of dollars. Okay, so
Has the state gone after?
So it's all part of when we do a conduct model or a conduct review. So after Hurricane Ian, we had about 6 companies that were under model conduct reviews, and those are still ongoing. We go look at them and say, are you paying your claims in timely? Are you treating your customers fairly? I run the Office of Consumer Services, so they don't want calls from me. They don't want calls from OIR.
Yeah.
Because at the same time, one thing that the customer may not be thinking about, all these insurance companies, they're publicly traded. Okay, a lot of them depend on Wall Street. So if they're getting bad reports from the state of Florida, that means their access to capital is going to go in the tank.
How would viewers know this? How would our consumers know that they're getting?
Because everybody watches ABC. They're going to see me talk about this, hopefully.
Yeah.
But again,
because I don't know if they know what the bad actors are. And
yeah, look, it's when it comes trade secret, I get frustrated about as much as anything else. But what I've got Citizens Insurance, and that's the state insurance company. So Citizens is kind of the trend setter. So if I want to change the way carriers in the state of Florida do business, I'll go and change the way Citizens does business. When Citizens does a change in business, it forces the rest of the competition to do it. Citizens is the biggest player in the state, okay? But Citizens is much better for all of us when it's at 500,000 policies as opposed to 1 million policies.
Right. So I guess, is there any way for anybody, let me rephrase this, is there any way for a consumer to find out whether or not their new insurance company or the current insurance company will be able to actually pay out their claims?
So,
because, we saw it after Ian.
Yeah, so again, after Ian, here we are we're not quite 2 years after Ian, 98% of the claims have been closed, okay? Out of 753,000 insurance claims. And you got to think about, that's not 753,000 Chevy Tahoes. That's houses built in 1970, 1990, 2010. So to be able to knock down that type of claims work in 2 years after a disaster that's been the largest the state has seen, that's pretty unbelievable. And again, I'm not living there, and I may have a different opinion. I may have,
right.
But Hurricane Michael hit my hometown,
yeah.
And we still look like a hurricane's hit us. So people have to understand when disaster strikes, it's not going to come back together the next day.
How legitimate, I guess, are these new companies is really what these folks
They are not allowed to do business in the state of Florida unless they are capable to do the job. So they've got to be funded. Every year we have raised their fiscal amount of holdback they've got to have as cash on hand. Because again, inflation's going up, everything costs more. Guys, you're going to have more money in the bank. And when we tell them they have to have more money in the bank, remember, interest rate thing I told you about, it costs them more money to have money in the bank. Sometimes they have to borrow money to have money.
Because there are like a lot of like no-name carriers that people have never even heard of before.
Sure, well,
I don't know, what's Loggerhead or what.
But what you've got is you've got investors. They pay attention to the Florida market. They see that that Florida has changed. We had an environment in Florida where 7%, and I've shared this with you before, 7% of all insurance claims nationwide originated out of the state of Florida. 7% of all insurance claims. But over 70% of all litigation originated out of the state of Florida. So we had a business model in the state of Florida with these loopholes you could drive trucks through, and the capital market said, I'm not going to do business in Florida. I would talk to Chubb, I would talk to Lloyd's in London, I would talk to JP Morgan. Here's my card, here's my cell phone number. I want you to do business in Florida. And they would tell me, Jimmy, we can model for hurricanes in your state. We can predict hurricanes in your state of what it could be our losses. We cannot predict for your litigation problems you got in your state. So this is why those loopholes had to get closed. And look, And it was a handful of carriers, a handful of law firms that were ruining it for everybody. And, at the end of the day, I tell people, here's my card, come to the state. So now what's happened is the environment's changed in the state of Florida. Remember that 12 to 18 months I told you about? We're at 14 months, 8 new carriers have come to the state. People have put their money and said, you know what, Florida's predictable now. Let's go and write risk in the Florida market. That's exactly what's happening. So yeah, you may not recognize the name at Publix, or Walgreens or CVS. They may have a funny name like, Slide or something like that, but they're coming into the Florida market, they're taking liability off the books, they're trying to write, you just can't create an insurance company overnight, but they're doing the best they can. And it's the trend that we need to see take place. It's not happening in Texas, it's not happening in Louisiana, it's not happening in California.
But right now they're only taking slide policies. A homeowner who might, right now they're only taking Citizens policies though, these new companies.
They're going to Citizens policies, and they're also writing, but now those carriers are brand new, okay? So now they've got to get relationships with agents around the state. So again, not every agent can sell every particular carrier's product. So I tell people all the time, your agent is your best hunting guide to getting solutions. If you don't like the answer, that you got to tell people to go look in the yellow pages. That doesn't exist anymore. Okay? Then the last crisis, I tell people to go look at the yellow pages. If you don't like what you like, go call another carrier. So like take, for example, State Farm. State Farm can sell you State Farm and they can sell you Citizens. That's it. They can't sell you anything. They're called a captive agent. All right? But you go hire an independent agent, they'll have a variety of insurance they can sell you. Just because your insurance agent didn't give you the answer you wanted, go pick up the phone, call another one. Get somebody else to write your coverage, because they may have access to another carrier that couldn't write your policy because that agent didn't have access to it.
I'm just afraid that we spend a lot of money to buy coverage, and maybe all we have is a promise of coverage that might not be any good if we need it.
And I feel like we had just answered that.
All right, but let me give a little bit further on that. So we've had carriers that have gone insolvent in the state of Florida. They've gone bankrupt. So this is what the state of Florida does. Not everybody does this, but the state of Florida does. We've got what's called FIGA. FIGA is our safety net that exists in the state. And that FIGA policy is redundancy on top of whatever you got. So even though he's worried about he bought coverage, he's not going to have peace of mind, yes, he will. He will have 100% he'll have peace of mind. Because if his carrier goes insolvent, goes bankrupt, then his policy drops to FIGA, and now FIGA pays that claim.
In this case, though, Progressive was just non-renewing him because they're reducing risk. They didn't go insolvent.
So Progressive, you think about their book of business. They've got cars, they've got motorcycles, they've got a little bit of everything. They're all over the place. So as they're trying to balance their international risk, they will pull back out of different markets. They'll move their losses around, So this is exactly what Progressive does. Progressive decided to pull some. They still write a lot in Florida, but we tell Progressive, we tell them all, if you want to write, like the Progressives who write a lot of car, we tell them you're not going to write in the state of Florida unless you're going to write home also. So you can have the car that everybody's got there. It's very competitive. There's lots of car TV ads on, but we say you must write homes. So they'll scale back. They'll still write homes because they want the car business.
I do want to ask about the big companies though, because Progressive, Nationwide, they're sending out their non-renewals right now, the big guys that people feel confident in. Travelers CEO, I don't know if you saw, but just this week they're like, we're still not ready to come to Florida. Florida is still a big risk for us. So the big guys that our consumers feel confident in, they're not showing that
Here's
yet.
some of the things that take place with that. So the problems that we've had with litigation, they've existed a long time, okay? You have term limits in the Tallahassee legislature, all right? So the changes that we made in basically December of 2022, they're not even 2 years old yet, okay? Almost 2 years. You had a governor who was saying, I want to fix the litigation crisis in the state. You had a Senate president, you had a speaker who said, I want to fix the litigation crisis in the state, okay? And you had me out there saying, praise Jesus, where have y'all been for the last 4 years, 7 years in my case? Thank God y'all want to, let's go ahead and fix this one problem we know exists, okay? So now those guys in the bigger markets are saying, okay, but Florida's got term limits. Will they really hold the line on the litigation reforms they made? Legislature meets every single year. The legislature they got hammered this past year, they'll get hammered this year, and those attorneys who lost that ability to go out there and canvass neighborhoods to the right business, they're going to want their own business model back. So I guarantee you some of those bigger guys saying, yeah, I want to go to the Florida market, I want to see if Florida can really hold the line and be as predictable as they are right now. So they'll take their time. They will come back to Florida because Florida's too good of a market. It really is. And what we have done has been short of miraculous, okay? I never thought I would see the type of changes in the Florida predictability of the insurance market. Can't control Mother Nature, can't control Washington, but what we've controlled in Florida, we've done everything we possibly can.
All right, let me see what else I got.
Anyhow, very frustrating, and I think the state of Florida should be doing a lot more to get consumers information on customer satisfaction, on how long it takes to pay claims.
Yeah, that's all transparency.
On the percent of claims by number and total amount that are being paid. And I really believe the state could do it if there was resolve to get it done.
And we talked about the trade secrets part of it.
Yeah, so I mean, trade secrets is also because how competitive those carriers are. They're publicly traded. They have earnings calls. You know, trade secrets don't just exist in Florida, they exist in all the 50 states. So, you know, if you want these carriers to be able to make a profit in the state of Florida, then they always don't want to tell their competition, you know, the newest way they've gone to grow their policy count.
Not really helpful for the consumer.
Well, but the great thing about it is competition helps these guys just duke it out for each other. Because the carriers can't talk to each other, that's antitrust, okay? So when you have the environment that we're in right now, where there's some blood in the water, it's about to be a frenzy, okay? If the reinsurance rates do as what I'm seeing and they're starting to drop, those insurance companies will start fighting each other for the Florida consumer because they want to take advantage of. Remember, time is precious. They can't make money on yesterday. They want to make money on today and moving forward. So they'll get to the point where they'll start getting aggressive with solutions, plans, gimmicks in order to get that consumer. They'll start offering better commissions to their agents because they'll want their agents to go out there and push their product. So, you know, we're at a good tipping point for the Florida consumer.
My last question is about the flood requirements.
Okay.
She's in a mobile home.
Mm-hmm.
The flood insurance for mobile home right now is literally doubling her insurance premium. So it's like $2,800 for $70,000 worth of a mobile home coverage.
Sure.
I'm sitting down with the chief financial officer tomorrow. If you could ask him a question or share something with him, what would you say?
Somehow, you know, if there's any way in any possibility that he could ask for extra funding or do something to help subsidize some of this flood insurance for mobile homeowners or the elderly. If there's any way, please, you know, do whatever you can to help us that can't help ourselves.
So a couple things we've seen, and this is where, you know, I appreciate Senator Scott and Senator Rubio getting so spun up on this, is we're seeing an increase at the federal level in flood insurance rates. Florida is a donor state, so we scream, but they can actually move the needle, okay? So our office has been working hand in hand, making sure that when we get calls like that, we make sure they hear it, okay? But I don't think it takes, you know, unless you're living under a rock, you can tell Washington's not very functional right now. You see the dysfunction between the parties, between the executive branch and the legislative branch, and unfortunately, the inmates are running the institution, and sometimes in the case with flood insurance. Again, it's also a higher cost of replacement, so that reflects a higher cost in the premium. So a couple things also that happened legislatively is we told people, hey, if you're going to get citizens insurance, you're going to have to get flood insurance also. That became a huge cost driver. It sounds like the responsible thing to do, but in the case like this woman here, it's breaking her. But then what you had with Hurricane Ian, you had this flood event that moved across the state, this rain event that moved across the state, and you had 1,000-year water events in Central Florida that had never seen flooding like that ever before. So you had people that had citizens insurance. They said, oh, I don't need flood. You know, I live in Central Florida. They lost everything. So this is why there became such an urgency to get people to invest in flood. Again, whether you believe in global warming or not, we're a storm-prone state, and we try to do as best as we can to make sure people have peace of mind that their home's going to be there even if disaster strikes.
And that's why Citizens is requiring flood, no matter what. I mean,
yeah, and look, that's up for debate. That's a tough expense
if you're not in a flood zone.
You know, but like I said, you know, you go talk to people in Orlando. They've never, I mean, people lost everything and they had nowhere to turn. You know, so then you have FEMA coming out. Good luck trying to get something from FEMA. That FEMA coming out trying to help people with some living expense money, but that's not going to put these people's lives back together. So we're trying to, you know, at least from the state. You know, sometimes I hate saying that we're, you know, telling them what to do, but you know, we want people to make sure they have a home to go back to.
All right, so we just spent the last hour or so listening directly from our viewers. You hear their concerns. How would you want to sum it up for what the state is doing for them, because they are still seeing their rates rise?
Well, the state hears them loud and clear. Your members of your Florida legislature hear them loud and clear. You know, just today, the governor signed a bill that's going to bring $200 million more relief to the My Safe Florida Home program. But I tell people all the time, if you don't participate in the program, you can't get the savings, or at least the government-assisted savings. But there's nothing that doesn't keep you from going to that path. People don't realize hardening their home will adjust their insurance rates. When you buy homeowners insurance, typically you'll buy it and maybe somebody inspects your house, maybe they don't. The My Safe Florida Home program brings an inspector to your house, documents your windows, crawls in your attic, shows on paper and signed and sealed to your carrier, you know, Nadine's house is bulletproof. She deserves these discounts. And the state of Florida's laws say you must give them those discounts. So again, it's awareness, it's education. You know, I'd love to give everybody the $10,000 that the program's got. I'd love to give them something. But you know, I'm also dependent on the legislature that writes the budget. And this is why, again, I'm asking for a special session. I want to continue until nobody has a problem with homeowners insurance. And just remind people, it wasn't long ago where things were fine and well. It just happens in Florida. We're storm prone.